Thank you very much, Professor Togawa and ICBS committee for giving me the opportunity and accepting our panel for this conference and presentation. Okay, before going to start the presentation, let me discuss the background of the presentation. We have a long background, almost 4 years experiences on this particular field of revisiting ethnography. While the changes in rural social structure is an important topic for social research, even though many researchers have been conducting studies on rural society, the revisit research in later periods in scale in social research in Bangladesh. In this context, an attempt has been made to revisit ethnography of Poribar and kinship in a Muslim rural village in East Pakistan, a study conducted by Professor Hara in a village in Bangladesh. In the absence of Professor Hara, Gohira village has been revisited by some other scholars. The main purpose of this seminar is to present the result of ethnographic research after the visit of Gohira. The current revisiting ethnography research project is being carried out by about 10 researchers from different disciplines. There are some sociologists, political scientists, anthropologists, and economists who are analyzing rural diversity from a holistic perspective. This project started in April 2017 and still going on. This panel of the seminar has been arranged to present various articles written by researchers who carrying out research in Gohira village. After keynote presentation, the researcher will present findings on transformation in the second session that would include 3 articles. And after this presentation of article, the third session of the seminar will discuss 2 recently published books on rural society in Bangladesh. Okay, let me introduce our panelists on this session. At first, I would like to invite Dr. Nurul Huda Saqib for his presentation. Please, Dr. Nurul Huda Saqib.
Hello.
Mama.
আপনার মিউট হয়েছে
মিউট করা নুরুল হুদা সাকিব মিউট করা okay.
Thank you very much, Professor, for inviting me in this presentation. It's been a pleasure for me to present my presentation in this prestigious platform. So let's
sorry to interrupt you. I need the permission from the admin for sharing our slide.
Okay. So can I request the admin to multiple option to open the multiple option for sharing the slide? I just need the permission to share our slides for the presentation.
Yes, done. Sorry.
It's okay, you can present the slide. Yeah.
Now you can share.
Yep. So the topics we are going to present today is like socio-economic changes in Gohira village. So before coming to the presentation, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Nurul Huda Saqib. I'm Associate Professor, Department of Government Politics, and I have a co-author. He's MD Riyad Islam Saqib. He's a MS student, and also he's doing some independent research in the similar field. So the background of Saqib, I can't see the slide. Saqib, the slide is gone. Yeah. Can you move to the next slide? So before I'm going to present my research and my paper. So first of all, I would like to apologize that this work we have done so far is like it's work on progress. So we need to work a lot more than that it is now in here. And like to be honest, as I'm trying to start where Professor Abhijit Dasgupta left there. So I mean, revisiting ethnography and especially doing the surveys, similar work is very difficult, and it's very difficult for our team to do the same thing in the village of Gohira, especially in Shikdarbari, because if some of you have visited there, it's like the situation, the context, their backgrounds is very difficult to get the data from there. So when we started the survey with in our team, we had Professor Ranjan with us as well, and he knows very well about the situation. It's very difficult for us to get to go inside of the village and collect the data one by one to every family and get the information out of there. So luckily we meet that challenge and we did that. So what we did like in our research is like try to collect the data of all the members of the family. So there are like 112 families up there, and we collected most of the data. So that is one challenge we made up, and we did that. So that was our main the statistical part, like for the survey part. That was on that period. That was our main goal on that particular time. So later on, we try to develop our argument and we try to look at what these sort of changes, these sort of data in here are basically showing us and try to investigate what are the major driving force in Shikdarbari to change the social economic status, and what is playing the major role in here. Sakib, next please. So in our data, what we did along with the survey, what we did, like we did some in-depth interviews as well as participant observation to find out the changes in that particular village of the Gohira, and we do door-to-door survey and gather the information of all of them, and we try to find out the best possible people. It means that anybody adult over 18 years who can provide us the information accurately, we try to contact with them. We try to get the data through him with all the families. We didn't like collect the data from every individual members of the family, because it's not possible, especially for the female respondent. It's not possible to get the data out of there in all the time. But to some extent, we use our resources, such as had few local people who help us to collect the data. So that's how we meet up. We collect the data of 667 people in there. And as I said, we did some in-depth interview to understand the dynamics of this particular social change. We also did some social participation of observation, and therefore we analyze. We try to look at these try to correlate the variables like household, utility, gas service, education, these sort of things, how these sort of things change compared to the time of the Hara. At the moment, we are not presenting a comparative analysis, but at the moment we are showing our result in this presentation. But when we publish our paper, we'll try to make some comparison with the Hara's data and show how this change occurs in our. So let me introduce Riyadul Islam Sakib to present the second part of our data. He will present some of the findings that we had from our research. Riyad Sakib, it's over to you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. So what we found from the data we collected from the Shikdarbari, Gohira village, and that 54%, as we talk about the socio-economic background, social background, so 54% of the people were male out of the 666 village residents out there, and rest were female. And about the age, we can see that the 35.3% people were aged below 25, and 44.7% people who were mainly prime professionals are aged between 26 to 50, and the rest are 17.50% are aged above 50, and so and 1% didn't answer about their age, and the 2% they I'm not sure, and 41% of the respondents are unmarried, and 57.72% are married, while we can see that 44% are aged between 26 to 50. And I think the result is low according while if we consider it's a rural area, and the people are not getting married at early stage. And before coming to educational side, we want to talk about the overseas migration and socio-economic changes that happened because of it. Since the beginning of 1980s, overseas migration started taking place in this area, which is still a common phenomenon in this of the area. So we can see that since the beginning of 1981, there were 6 migration in around this area. The numbers started growing from the 1990s, and the 21st century has seen a lot of migration in this area. And if we talk about the trend of overseas migration, the people who migrated before, they are more prone to take their son or their brothers in this migration process. But if we still in this area, there has not been a single family migration to overseas, or more specifically, if we talk about it, no female member of the family have been migrated to overseas areas. That's because of the religious values or the social values. I don't. We have to dig deeper about it. And so migration is mainly, so we can state that the migration is mainly professional. These migrants come back after a certain period of time, and they make in-country migration if necessary. They don't settle down in foreign countries. Okay.
बताओ view.
Hello. I'm getting an echo from.
Riyadul, you can continue. So somebody be unmuted. So please, I request to admin, please mute everyone. Okay, and another thing I want to say, Riyadul, you can speak Bengali language for analyzing the terminology, because most of the audience, including Aisha Khanum Aisugie, she also know the Bengali. Okay, you can also, anybody can introduce Bengali terminology and speak in Bengali in this session, no problem. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. After the migration data, if we look at the educational backgrounds, and we can see that most of the people have got at least and formal education, and most of them have completed their primary or higher secondary education. Very few have gone past those and completed degree or honors and something like that. It is quite surprising that even after being located near Hathazari Madrasa, which is a very famous madrasa of Bangladesh, only 8.1% of the students from Hathazari Madrasa, from overall madrasa backgrounds, and that's due to the change in socioeconomic values, change to their attitude about madrasa educations over time, and their migration has played a significant role. Their professional background has changed, which changed their approach towards madrasa, or more importantly, religious education. And we from the data we have seen that 91.71% male and 89.18% female have received formal education, which is high in terms of our academic and acceptancy in our country. Next, about the farm labor, the agricultural background, which was the main economic economics sector of this area prior to 1960s, what we found in Hara's writings. But at this moment in 2019 and 2020, only three families are engaged in farm labor, and all of these members who are engaged in farm labor are aged above 50. So it is clear that no new teenagers or new bloods are interested in farm labor. Moreover, they are interested in migration or higher education for better professions. Or okay, and then comes involvement in business. And so what the involvement in business also increased over the years since 1980s, because that with in-depth interviews, it is clear that the family members of migrants worker or people who came back from returned from foreign countries after a certain period of time, they did not go back to their primary occupation, which might was in their area, or migrated to which is a grocery shop or some small business, but they have started business, and their family members also have started business since 1980s, and the number is growing gradually over the year. After that, we come to land ownership. So if we look at the number of landowner in cultivatable or ponds, it is very much only 96 families don't own cultivatable land, and 98 families don't own pond, which was a common thing back in 1960s, that as they need to own cultivatable land or pond for fisheries or agriculture. But the socio-economic culture had an impact on the land ownership. Also, people who sold their cultivatable land for migration didn't necessarily bought back those land, as their occupation changed. And recently, they are more comfortable to buy land in the cities, as there are shortage of land, and the future generation is more comfortable to stay at cities for better better lifestyle and better education, and so on. So after then we come to the part of housing. So housing, since 1980s, more houses were getting built or rebuilt. That most of them stated that they built their houses at 1980s or 90s, but we can see that they have rebuilt in some extent, and the tin shed or bamboo built houses are nowadays less common factor in this area. That indicates the economic advancement of the area after shift in occupation, and the buying capacity of this of the people and the family of this area have increased. The utility arrangement is more focused and more helpful from the local government departments of our country, and which helped the families of the villages to have better source of drinking water, better toilet ownership, and electric connection over the year. And so about the toilet ownership, on every 100% of the people families own toilet, but still 16% of the families living in this area are using raw sanitation facilities. while we asked about them about their why they still have raw toilet using raw toilets, or most of these families are who still own raw toilets, and they have migrated to other uh, areas of our country, or migrated to cities. They are not they are not enough interested to invest in their in the area, in their villages, so that still their families have raw toilets, and there might not someone to use it. And about the gas connection, the gas 24% of the people don't own gas connection, but the gas connection mainly depends on the government and the allotment since the beginning of 21st century, and the new connections are halted from time to time. Even now, the new connections are halted. From the cities, people, though people have money, they won't get a gas connection. So that's the same case for the villagers out there. After the utility connection, so we come to the economic changes part. The people mostly don't feel comfortable, as Professor, Dr. Nurul Sakib sir stated earlier. The people, it is very hard to extract information from them. They are not comfortable to talk about anything and talk about their economic changes, though they didn't say that their economic condition deteriorated or remained the same. Only the 45% of the people stated that their situation improved, and the other didn't answer or didn't want to answer about their economic status. Thank you. That was from my part. So what the changes indicate would our Dr. Nurul Sakib sir will talk about it.
Thank you, Sakib. The data we had, like, is basically indicates few things. One thing is that, like, there are improvements, and it's quite obvious that due to migration and socioeconomic changes happens, and that improved a lot. And through our observation, participation, and to our as we did some interviews, when we talked about about the economic condition, as I said, and Riyadul also said that people are not much comfortable to talk about their economic condition, their economic environment. But to one or two interviewee mentioned that it happened, and most of the people who lived overseas and basically had a certain improvement, a huge improvement in their economic condition. And as I say, that if someone's family goes to abroad, and they try to bring their, like, associate their family members, sons or relatives to overseas, so that there are some family bonding up there. So that is one another thing we have seen in there. There is strong family bonding still up there, because during the Eid prayers, they still sit together, they pray, and they have some regular meeting, what they call shamaj, and they had that, and they have some regular meetings. And also, like, even if they have some, I mean, small issues, small conflict, and they sit together, try to mitigate that particular issues within themselves. They don't go with the police, or they don't want to I mean, explore that particular things outside of their village. And this particular thing also changed the internal migration as well, because as we have seen, people are the new generation of that particular in this village is not much interested on madrasa education. They are more interested in studying university, or rather than or after passing their HSC, they are more comfortable to go overseas with their to help their fathers or their associates, or earn some money. And later on, when they come back after 10 or 15 years, they try to move out from that particular village. They want to resettle in the city. So there are this overseas migration also helping a lot to do some internal migration as well. And because of, like, because of the education, there are dynamics of the changes in here. The people are nowadays doing more jobs outside of the village, and it also making some impacts in local occupation as well, because as I said, there's shortage of land, and there are like and people are, when they're coming back, they don't involve, they're shifting their traditional job they had. They are more involved in business. And lastly thing, we saw that migration also causing some social conflict, and that is interesting because during our second phase of survey, when we went for data collection, we saw the two cousins had some conflict, and one cousin stabbed the other one, and that is because of because that particular family, those who were being stabbed, that particular family members are in overseas, and their position getting improved, and the other one, their family members is not in the overseas, and they have slightly lower condition compared to them, and that particular family basically showing their class, their status to them. That's why they had some confusion and conflict, and it causing some conflict as well. And in that particular incident, and when we asked some of them, and they said that this is the first time we have seen police is coming to our village for a long time. So that's it from our end. And I also apologize that still we are working on it, and we have a lot of work to do. Still, I would like to have some recommendation and probably suggestions for making to improve our paper. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nurul Huda Saqib and Riyadul Islam, for your nice presentation. And now floor is open for discussion and question. If you have any question from audience, please ask them. There is no question or comments. Actually, Dr. Nurul Huda Saqib did his PhD from University of Sydney, and there are long legacy between the Sydney University and Professor Hara, because Professor Hara also did his PhD from Australia, and this work was his PhD work, research work was a part of his PhD work. So Dr. Huda actually showed his interest to doing this research in the Gohira village because of his academic legacy between Hara and Australia. Okay, so just for information, if you have any question, please ask him. So no question.
So if you don't have any questions, I just want to mention one thing is that I think what we did in our survey is that because we gathered the information for the future research, and ISU was mentioning that do she needs permission to do research for that, because we collect the data, we got the information, and for future research on doing the same village, I think our research is valuable for you, because you in our data collection, what we did, we collect the information of all the members and the name of the members, as well as their age and their level of education, and also their phone number as well. So if you want to do future research in this particular topic, in this particular village, after 10 years, or revisiting ethnography, if you want to do that, or doing this survey, I think our work will be an asset for you. That's what I can say that. Thank you.
Professor Togo, do you have any questions or comments?
If there is no question, I have one question about the migration issue. The number of the migration working outside agriculture increasing quickly 1990s afterwards, but mostly male persons, the family. In compare with male person, female is very limited, daughter and wife. what do you think this reason, the limitation of the working space for women?
I mean, yes, that's very good question and interesting in the sense that if you look at the government, Bangladesh government and the overseas migration, and government is promoting more female workers, they're sending more female to abroad for especially in Middle East, and they're giving some privilege. But in this particular village and the region of the Gohira, you don't find that much. That's because of obviously that is for religious values, as Sakib said, and religious values is very important in this village. Even and when I mean to the villagers in there, and Professor Ranjan also, probably you also know that during the Hara's time, when Hara did the same thing, and he found that the village and villagers, especially the females are very much religious, and they are not comfortable to talk them. And same thing in the village now, Gohira is still there, and Ranjan, Professor Ranjan knows this better, because one of the female who is more open outside the village, like she's living in the city. She's more open. She's talking to Ranjan for an interview. But same person, when she comes to the village, she is wearing the veil, and she is not coming in front of male because of the religious values. So that is one thing very important in starting Gohira.
I understand the religious issue, religious consciousness still continues. That is a kind of conservative people mind settings, but Riyadul Islam discussed about education, much secularized. Most of the people going to government school, not madrasa, and well-educated than before. Secularization usually going with modernizing and urbanizing, but this case is different.
Yes.
Secularizing, but people still continue religious consciousness, religious identity. How do you explain this difference?
I mean, how do I explain this difference? I mean, one thing is that I mean, when we talk, because I mean, in the village, that particular village is different in the sense that because they respect their elders in the sense that the values they had in the village, they respect that. At the same time, younger generation is more, and also the people up there respect their female as well, because they don't want their family members, their female members, to work outside. Okay, they want their family members to be educated, but they don't want their family members to go and work and earn the money. They don't. Most of them, not everyone. Most of them don't want that. That is one particular reason I can say that. But to study that, because we did the survey to study it, we need, I mean, more study, more in-depth interview. Maybe in future we can do that. We can analyze more to conducting more interviews.
So maybe it's not only
can I add something on it? Can I add something? Okay. According to my observation, since I have been researching on Gohira village almost last 4 years, we cannot understand the religion, modernity, and the education sector in separate way now, because of migration, and not only the migration, even the globalized world now included in Gohira's people in various ways. আমরা যদি দেখি হচ্ছে যদি টেকনোলজি একটা বড় ইস্যু, এখানে টেকনোলজি একটা বড় ইনফ্লুয়েন্স আছে, এবং এখানকার যে মানুষজন সেখানকার হচ্ছে আসলে গহিরার যে কালচার, এটা ইসলাম দিয়ে শুধু ব্যাখ্যা করা যাবে না। শুধু আমরা যখন বলি যে ইসলামাইজেশন, ইসলাম দিয়ে ব্যাখ্যা, এটার সাথে নানা ইস্যু জড়িত। এখানে হচ্ছে এডুকেশনের সেক্টর, এটাও একভাবে বলা যায় না যে গহিরার মানুষজন হচ্ছে মেয়েদের এডুকেটেড করতে চাচ্ছে বা কাজ করতে যাচ্ছে না, কিন্তু গহিরার একটা লং ট্র্যাডিশন ছিল যেটা হচ্ছে যে মেয়েদের বাইরে কাজ করা যাবে না। এই কারণে কিন্তু যারা কাজ করে না, এখন হচ্ছে যিনি চান না, একজন পিতা চান না হচ্ছে তার মেয়ে গ্রামে থেকে কাজ করুক, ওই ট্র্যাডিশনটা ভাঙতে চায় না, এই কারণে মাইগ্রেশন হয়ে যাচ্ছে। ইভেন গহিরা থেকে গহিরার নারীরা মালয়েশিয়াতে রেস্টুরেন্টও চালাচ্ছে, এরকম এভিডেন্স আছে। কারণ প্রফেসর হারা যে বাসায় থাকতেন, উনি খুব এলিট ফ্যামিলির, এবং ওনার ছেলে মেয়ে সবাই হচ্ছে শিক্ষিত, উচ্চ শিক্ষিত। এবং প্রফেসর হারা আমাদের একটা লেখায় ছিল, এই বইয়ের ডিসকাশনে আমি বলবো, যেহেতু আজকে কালাম নেই, সেই কালাম আমাকে প্রেজেন্টেশন করার কথা বলেছে। আমি অন বিহাফ অফ কালাম আমি বইটাতেই আপনাদের যে এডিটেড বই, যেটা থার্ড সেশনে যেটা, সেখানে আমি বলবো সেই জায়গাগুলো। এবং মাইগ্রেশন নিয়ে আমাদেরও একটা পেপার আছে, প্রফেসর তোগোয়া, মি অ্যান্ড দীপান্বিতা ঘোষ, সেই সেশনে হবে সেটা। দীপান্বিতা প্রেজেন্ট করবে, আমিও কিছুটা ইনক্লুড করবো সেখানে। সো এই জায়গাগুলোকে আমরা মেইনলি ফোকাস করব, যে জায়গাগুলোতে আসলে প্রফেসর হুদা যেটা বলেছে সেটা স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্যাল সার্ভের জায়গাগুলোতে, মানে সেই জায়গাগুলোকে ফোকাস করেছে। এবং ওই এখানে প্রফেসর হুদা এখানে কাজ করলেও আমাদের মাইগ্রেশন পার্টে অনেকটা রিকমেন্ডেশন ছিল, আমরা সেপারেটলি প্রেজেন্ট করছি বিভিন্ন জায়গায়, কিন্তু এটা
রঞ্জন, ফুজিতা সেন্সে কোয়েশ্চন করছেন।
আচ্ছা, ওকে। So do you have any question from other parts?
Fujita sensei, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Fujita from Kyoto University, and I am one of the members of the Togawa Sensei's research project. Sorry, this is the first time for me to meet you.
Okay.
And my question is that regarding the employment of females, how about the school teachers or bank staff or others? Maybe in Dhaka, there are some, not some, many of them. I worked at a private university as a lecturer. At that time, so many girls studying in university, and they got a lot of jobs in formal sector. How about in Gohira village? That is my question. Thank you.
We didn't find anyone in the village. I mean, especially we didn't find anyone, as I said, the working overseas, going overseas. But we found few, but not that much. And we didn't collect that data that much because most of the as I said that we didn't go through that particular data. In especially female occupation, but what we Sakib, are you there? Just let me
Actually, Sensei, Fujita Sensei, can I add something on that issues? Actually, many women from Gohira, they are working in the corporate sector and other school teachers, but they are not staying in Gohira. At first, they have to migrate other place, and then they are starting their working. But this is the traditional culture. They are not allowed in other place to work from residing the Gohira. Actually, this is the tradition of Gohira village. Actually, but there are a lot of teachers.
Professor Ranjan, I just want to try to show the data in there. I mean, in our data, we didn't actually accurately try to look that. But as Professor Ranjan said that there are female members who don't live there, who live outside the village in the cities. They do work, but we didn't collect the data. I mean, what sort of work they do. They involve in service, they involve in like other jobs, but we didn't collect that particular information in our survey because in our survey our main focus was that the people who are living in the village collect the data from that perspective, and we collected few data, but not the specific occupation. We are, because it's when we are doing this survey in that particular time, it's very difficult because some of them because we are taking information from others about the others. So what happened that they are not quite sure about their particular occupation. So that's why we escaped that particular part in our survey. But there are, but when we talked, like when we did the in-depth interviews, we found that there are some people, some female who living in the cities, they're doing some job, but as I said, when that particular female or anyone coming to the village from cities, they are very much religious. They are not coming in front of the, I mean, male people. They are more happy to stay inside. Or that means that they are following their religious values, their tradition in the village, not outside the village. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So any other questions or comments? Okay, so we can move now to the next presentation. Thank you, Nurul Huda Saqib and Riyadul Islam. Now we have another presentation. This presentation will be made by Dr. Bulbul Ashraf Siddiqui. Let me introduce something about him. Dr. Siddiqui actually is specialization on Islamic anthropology, in special focus on Tablighi Jamaat in Bangladesh. It is very fascinating work, and he has published recently 2 books. One of the book was published by Springer, the Tablighi Jamaat of Bangladesh. Actually, he also did his PhD from Cardiff University in UK, and his PhD works actually especially focus on Tablighi Jamaat issues. And we, from this project, we invited him to focus on the Tablighi Jamaat, not only the Tablighi Jamaat, madrasa education system in the Gohira village and relationship between the madrasa education and the people and everyday experiences of the people. So we can hear a lot of things from him. So please, Dr. Siddiqui.
Thank you, Professor Ranjan Shaha. And also I'd like to thank Sensei, Professor Masahiko Togawa, for giving me this opportunity. And we have a relatively long working relationship with this team. And I feel very thankful to be part of this project. I currently teach at North-South University. I teach mainly sociology and anthropology. And I'm also the director of Confucius Institute at North-South, and a researcher at the Center for Peace Studies at North-South University. So let me share the screen, my presentation, then we can. Okay, so I hope you can see my slides. Ranjan, would you like to confirm whether you can see it?
Yes, it is showing.
Okay, thank you. So before I start, I'd like to give you a little background on the madrasa education in this part of area. So if you look into the madrasa education, which is known as, like, traditional Islamic education system, and it has long tradition in South Asia, and it's very diverse in terms of nature and functionality. Especially if we look into the modern time, we could broadly divide the education system into two parts. One is Qaumi based education, another one is Aliyah, and within that Aliyah and other type of Qaumi madrasas, there are different types of efforts of modernizing their education system. And that's why sometimes we came to know about the terminology that called kindergarten madrasa or cadet madrasa. Even if you look into different parts of Dhaka city and other big cities like Chittagong, and especially Chittagong, you could find this kind of madrasas. And it is a tendency to attract students from different, especially upper middle class or rich background, because there's a common understanding that only underprivileged students, they go to madrasa. But things are changing in present time. So if we look into the little historical background, like it goes before like establishment of Deoband Madrasa in India, which was established at some point of 1860s. So during that time, like or before that time, when during the time of British period, the Islamic education system has been like undergoing into different kinds of reformation, and we see that a new type of Islamic education system has been introduced at that point of time, that is known as Aliyah Madrasa. And that establishment put a little challenge on the Qawmi Madrasa, Qawmi-based Madrasa, and especially if you look into the establishment of Calcutta Aliyah Madrasa in 1791, and then Qawmi Madrasa faced little challenge, and under that situation, they started a new madrasa in 1960s that is known as Deoband Madrasa, popularly. And in South Asia, if you look into the Qawmi Madrasa tradition, Deoband Madrasa is one of the leading centers in South Asia that that acts as the guardian of Qawmi madrasas in this land, especially Bangladesh. And when we talk about Gohira village, and you know that the popular madrasa that is known as Hathazari Madrasa in Bangladesh, so that is very close from Gohira village. So that was the idea, to understand like what sort of social and cultural and religious impact does that madrasa have on this particular village. And as you know that Gohira village has a long tradition of anthropological inquiry by Professor Hara, and later on this young group of anthropologists and sociologists and other researchers, they're getting to that village to understand it under this present time. So Gohira, the people from Gohira, they generally, like as you can see from the previous presentation that Dr. Saqib and his team mentioned, that Gohira and village, and they have diversity in terms of migration, in terms of education, and since it is very close, not too far from the madrasa, so this particular research looked at to understand that changes. And this madrasa is, although it is popularly known as Hathazari Madrasa, but the official name of it, Al Jamiatul Ahliya Darul Ulum Moinul Islam. So it has a tremendous impact into Qawmi madrasa-based education in Bangladesh. And as you perhaps know, that their charismatic leader and principal of this madrasa, Allama Shafi, died recently, and he was very influential in terms of promoting Qawmi-based madrasa education in Bangladesh through this iconic madrasa. So the objective of this research was to understand the social and cultural impact and the relationship between local people and this Hathazari Madrasa in Bangladesh. And we had three or specific objectives in order to do that. So one first point was to understand the relationship, and the second, like what sort of impact does it have, and finally perceived understanding on the Hathazari Madrasa, although I'm not going to focus on perception that much, so I will be focusing more on these first two specific objectives. And the methods that I followed, it's mainly qualitative, and ethnographic observation was also used in that process, and we used 20 in-depth interviews and also used observation. And as you know that, perhaps know that the study we started just before the pandemic. So I had plans to go a few more times to that village to understand the impacts and other things. But due to this pandemic, I couldn't do that with my team. and one of my research assistants helped me in collecting data. So I hope when the things will be, a little soothing and easy to travel, then I'll go back to Gohira village again to revisit from my perspective and to enrich the this paper. And if you look into the brief historical background of Hathazari Madrasa, I would say that there's not much available literature in English about the historical development of Darul Uloom Hathazari Madrasa. And the only written book that I found, which is in Bengali, it says that Darul Uloom Hathazari Itihash. So in English, it's History of Darul Uloom Hathazari by Maulana Mufti Jashimuddin, and that book was published locally from Chittagong in 2002. But it gave tremendous rich description about the context and the process of establishment of this madrasa. And according to that book, it says that Darul Uloom Deoband was established in 1866, and later on, scholars, Islamic scholars from that institute, they were thinking about developing similar sort of institutions into the region. And as part of the dialogue, in 1903, they managed to establish this Hathazari Madrasa. And as you know that according to Metcalf, Deoband has become one of the influential Islamic centers and education institutions for Muslim in South Asia. And according to the book I mentioned, the Bengali book written by Maulana Mufti Jashimuddin in 2002, it says that a group of Islamic scholars who were trained at Darul Uloom Deoband decided to disseminate the learnings of Deoband to the Bengal region. Therefore, one of the trained Islamic scholar, Allama Abdul Wahid, took initiatives to establish an Islamic education center in this region. And he received guidance and assistance from two renowned Maulana, Abdul Hamid and Maulana Sufi Azizur Rahman. And they started under the direct guidance from Maulana Muhammad Ashraf Ali Tanvi. And Maulana Muhammad Ashraf Ali Tanvi, he was another influential and iconic Islamic scholar during his time, and he's still remembered and being cited by the Islamic scholar frequently. And in 1897, they started this madrasa under the name of Moinul Islam Madrasa. It was established in another village that is known as Charigram in Hathazari. And later on, they had to move from this place to the close to the the market area of Hathazari in 1899. So this is the location now we can see the this madrasa is located. And if you go there, like the madrasa and the surrounding areas are very busy and crowded area, not only because of its number of students, but also because of its tremendous surroundings of market. And especially if you look in the front side of this madrasa, you could see there are many bookstores, Islamic bookstores, and these are the stores that are mainly run by these ex or graduates from this madrasa and some other business entrepreneurs. And that's the environment. And this madrasa has become one of the leading madrasas in Bangladesh later on, and has become very influential since its inception. So now, if you look into some of the findings of these research, we could see that like the pattern of madrasa education is changing. That's the one impact or findings that we could see. Like as Professor Sakib mentioned in their survey, that only a tiny portion of students go to Hathazari Madrasa from this area, Gohira village. and similarly, I could see that there's a growing changes of perception about madrasa education in general in Gohira. That's why there's a growing tendency to move towards more like secular or modern education system. And some also prefer to send their children to kindergarten. And so moving into modern education system and has become one of the attraction. And also like sometimes, these studying at the madrasa, and it's very difficult for them to enhance their career in terms of like if we want to compare madrasa graduates with other graduates from other traditional or secular or modern education institute. So that's why many parents, they think that they need to send their children to either other type of madrasa like kindergarten madrasa or modern types of education system. But interesting thing is this particular madrasa, students come from different parts of the country. So from that perspective, it's understandable that only tiny percentage of students will come from the neighboring areas. And since it has a very widely high reputation across the country. So when I was interviewing some of the students from the madrasa, and I found that the people are from northern part of Bangladesh, southern part of Bangladesh. They come here for their higher or better studies in Islamic philosophical thoughts, and also they want to experience the traditional and education from this institute. So that is one interesting thing to observe. And in another context, despite the growing or tendency to move into different types of education system, this particular madrasa is very popular among the youth in this area. And although many parents, they're prioritizing Aliyah Madrasa, but they think that Hathazari Madrasa still has a very interesting context and impact for them. And one of the respondents mentioned that since there is a changes going on, so he was telling us that some students, they think that they go into to pursue these studies in both this like Qaumi Madrasa and Aliyah Madrasa simultaneously. It's partly because like sometimes if someone graduates, being graduate from traditional madrasa, then the scope of work or opportunity is limited. But if someone goes to Aliyah Madrasa, then they can go into find a better job. Although you know that the government of Bangladesh recently accepted some of the degrees from Qaumi Madrasa, and they're being now seen equivalent to university studies. So that in a way will increase, I think, and visibility of Qaumi-based madrasa education. And the second point that I would like to say that institution like this big institution like Hathazani Madrasa has impacts on the like increased sense of religiosity in the region. So religiosity is very difficult to assess and like based on any criteria, but from a very general term, if we want to define religiosity like praying 5 times a day and upholding very basic general etiquettes into the family. For example, Dr. Sakib mentioned like honoring the elders and this kind of thing. So from that perspective, Hathazari Madrasa is helping like producing highly conscious young graduates in Islam with concrete knowledge in Islam in this region. And not only with their education, formal education from that institute, but also like, this institute has different other types of activities in that particular area. For example, unfolding different type of was mahfil and seminaries, and that kind of activity are very popular among these people from the Gohira village, and they're being attracted with that, and they receive the invitation as well. So from that perspective, the people from, in general, the people from this village, they're very sympathetic towards this madrasa, and they feel that it is helping them in terms of educating their children in Islamic context and developing good character among the students. Like I read a quote from old elderly people from that area, and he was also a madrasa principal in a neighboring area. So according to him, I quote, many parents think that sending and educating their children in madrasa could help develop good character among the students. Students would also learn to abide by their parents and to respect others, unquote. So this is something they feel that is continuing, other than like this heavy religious education. And they have reputation, like since the madrasa has a highly reputed madrasa, and through that reputation, they think that their area as a village, it also has, and they feel pride of being a member of that village. And despite all these positive things, they also expressed, some of them also expressed that there's a growing sense of frustration among the previous generation, and the previous many people from that generation, they think that a younger generation and many youth, they do not think much about their religiosity or madrasa education lately. So that creates a sense of frustration. And another impact that we could identify from these establishment, that economic impact. As I mentioned when I was describing about the madrasa, you could see that there are many business opportunity around the institution. So, which is very, if you think from very economics viewpoint, which is very normal, or that's the thing it should be like, because an institution, since an institution is bringing students and people from different parts of the country, and and that created a demand and need for other things. That's why in the neighborhood, it created some sort of business opportunity, and it's not new. It was like ongoing, but the number of like business opportunities has increased as the madrasa started to grow. So the bookstores, and if you go to like if you observe any madrasas like that in other places, a similar environment can be found. So bookstore is very common in terms of, like, if you look into not only madrasa, if you look into the traditional or modern Islam education system, so bookstores are there as well. So that's for the need of the students of that madrasa. And also, like, madrasa students, sometimes they get informal teaching opportunities at the neighborhood. Like they could go to teach young children into different homes, and sometimes during the time of holiday, they can, like, especially, as you know, that which is very common in Bangladesh, like during the time of Ramadan, during the time of like when people fast. So they do special prayer at the night that is known as Tarabi, Salatul Tarabi. So in that time, like many students, they do some sort of work, like reciting the Quran during the Salat. And in these 30 days, they sometimes do like Khatme Tarabi. That means like they need to revise Quranic verses, and they need to use that verses into their prayer. And through that prayer, they can complete reading the Quran from the beginning to the end. And in many cases, students, they get into that kind of jobs into neighboring areas and also in their own areas. So that is sometimes like you could see that opportunity created for the graduates. Another thing is like sometimes there's obviously fear of less job opportunity compared to other or modern institutions among the students as well. So that's why like there's a tendency like which you can see like quite similar to other madrasa institute, like starting their own businesses, a strategy. And it has two implications. One is like they don't need to go for any sort of formal job hunting process, and they can start their own business by themselves. That's one thing. Another thing is like, that starting business is a kind of and they say it as a part of their like the business that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam started in his lifetime, and that was the profession of him. So it is known as sunnah as well. And the third type of work that they think about, like working as imams into the not only the neighborhood, but also when they move into other parts of the country, they do that kind of job as well. And now if we look into the briefly some other dimension of relationship between Hathazari Madrasa and Gohira village, we could see that since Hathazari Madrasa is a highly reputed institute, and it also increases the reputation of the area. And when we're interacting with them, they felt proud about the madrasa, and they highly praise about this madrasa because it's a national. The reputation is not only national, and sometimes this madrasa is regionally cited and quoted due to its reputation. And students are coming from different parts of the country by that reputation. Like I know people that they're going to their bond, and who do not want to go to or do not have the opportunity to go to study their one, many of them are coming to Hathazari. So it is like, if you look into the higher studies graph, you could see like some people can go to Hathazari. If not, sorry, if they can move further, they can go to Deoband, and then they can go to some other Islamic educations like institution like in Egypt, and there are some good institution also in the Middle East. So these are the higher education strategy work among the Qawmi Madrasa students. Another thing is like, as I mentioned, like about the Islamic seminary, like was Mahfil, and which is very popular. And whenever they organize that kind of thing, the people of Gohira village, as they're living in the neighborhood, they can easily go and move into and take part into that mahfil. And this is something like, that creates that sort of religious gatherings and discussion at the madrasa creates that opportunity to disseminate knowledge. And as you know that in modern days, when we're living in the time of social media and technology and globalization, people from urban areas, they can easily get different kinds of religious seminaries from YouTube, other social media platforms. But people who are living in the village areas, it doesn't give that opportunity for them. So rather than that, they prefer to go directly to participate into that kind of religious gatherings and listen to them. And especially this kind of event took place during the time of winter, and it is also creates a regular interaction between these two entity, like Gohira people from the Gohira village, and also with the madrasa, Hathazari madrasa. So they frequently can go into that madrasa. And another thing is like And since this is one of the influential madrasas in Bangladesh, and it acts as the guardian of Qawmi Madrasa, and this is also something like the people of that area think that it is very like they feel very proud about it. So that kind of good relationship were there, and and uh, during the time of my field work, I didn't see any sort of conflicting understanding about that. But only one thing I could remember, that when we were doing this field work, some people were very curious. Curious in terms of they thought that we may like we're working to understand that violent extremism or radicalization, like especially after the Holy Artisan and there after the several terrorist attacks or attempts of terrorism, terrorist attacks in different parts of the country. People were also very aware. So at some point of time, one elderly person, he clearly told us that you have to leave this neighborhood. You cannot continue your field work or data collection in this here about madrasa. And we tried to explain him that, okay, this is not about radicalization. It's just about the village and the relationship. But that's only one occasion that we faced. But after that, we didn't face anything. So if we now conclude the discussion, we could see that uh, despite the changing view about the Hathazari Madrasa, for example, declining nature of sending their children to that madrasa, they see Hathazari Madrasa as close to their heart. And they see it as one of their pride in this area. And that's why it is attracting people, students from other parts of the country. And it managed to create a trustworthy and credible reputation among the people, not only in this area, but among many other parts of the country. And the principal, the previous principal of madrasa, which was also known as nationally and internationally because of his wisdom and influence. And another thing is sympathetic views of people from this Gohira village toward Qawmi Madrasa-based education. And despite of that view, people are thinking that it's better to send their children, not to send their children to Qawmi-based madrasa education system, and then they can send their children to other type of students. It's a growing tendency. We are like mainly it is based on ethnographic and qualitative inquiry, so I do not have the percentage, but it's not that high, I would say. And the government of Bangladesh recently, as I mentioned before, that declared that madrasa educated students can also compete with other students in the job market. That created a new opportunity for them. So the fear on an uncertainty of their future after completion of their degree in madrasa education will be easing, I think, after that. And another interesting thing that for me, it was very interesting, like there's a traditional view of seeing madrasa students as like backward, less knowledgeable compared to other types of education graduates, like especially who are into Aliyah Madrasa and also into a modern and secular education system. But due to technological innovation and adaptation to that modern technological aspects, so students from Qawmi Madrasas, they're also moving into that kind of technological expertise. And that's why you could see that they're also into like exploring different kinds of social media, and they're very much aware about different types of controversial elements of or scholars that are being spreading over the internet. And another concluding remark that I would like to make, since Deoband Madrasa and Tablighi Jamaat, as Professor Ranjan mentioned, that I worked a significant time for my PhD and later on the Tablighi Jamaat, and it was very it interested me to see the nature of Tablighi activities in that particular area. Since Deoband is the mother institution, and that has a very close tie with Qawmi-based education, and also Maulana Ilyas, who is the founder of Tablighi Jamaat. He's also from the Bondi traditional education, so they have very close relationship, and I found a very strong presence of Tablighi Jamaat in that area. And since Tablighi Jamaat is a pro-Qawmi madrasa, so they have very good relationship, and they maintain it very well. And I've seen many of the Tablighi followers during that time when we were interviewing people in the area. And in summary, we could say that considering all these facts and features, we could say that madrasa, Hathazari Madrasa, is very influential in this area, and also people has a very positive image about that. And the thing that this madrasa is still acting as a place or source for developing, creating, and nurturing the idea of Islamic mind and Islam, and disseminating Islamic consciousness among the students, and what the students can be benefited both in worldly and life hereafter. And they think that in order to doing that, Hathazari Madrasa is doing a tremendous task. That's the end of my presentation. And if you have any questions, remarks, or anything, I would be very happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bulbul Siddiqui. So now floor is open for questions and comments. So in the chat box, there are some questions. Please look at the question, Dr. Siddiqui.
Okay, so I can see one question: that do these madrasas are contributing to peace education through deeper understanding of Islam, and how, and maybe sustainable education as well? For me, I think yes. Education is always peace, based on peace, and since this particular madrasa has a reputation, long reputation, and it is more than 100 years old education institution, and they have, I think, deeper understanding, and that's why students from different parts of the country, they're going into that madrasa, and if they cannot go outside, they prefer to stay at this kind of madrasa. So this is very, like I would say, for their perspective, it's definitely sustainable education for the Qawmi-based education system.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Siddiqui. Because of our time limitation, we now shift to another presentation. Thank you, Dr. Siddiqui.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, nice presentation. And now I would like to request Deepanita Ghosh for her presentation, though this paper is jointly written by Professor Togo and me. So now I'm requesting to Deepanita Ghosh. And because of time limitation, I would like to request Deepanita Ghosh to escape the theoretical issue, just findings. Okay. So Deepanita Ghosh.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present. First, I would like to share the slides with everyone. Please give me a moment. please confirm if you can see the slides?
Showing.
I am Dipannita. Good evening. I'm working as a research associate in BRAC Institute of Governance and Development, BRAC University. And I have also been working with Ranjan Shah sir for a very long time. And this paper is written by Ranjan Shah sir, Professor Togwa, and me. So as we have time constraints, I would skip a bit and I would directly go to the findings sections. I would just briefly describe hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, clear.
So in the recent decades, the study of migration is emerging as a central theme of research, rural research, and in order to unveil the dynamic characteristics of rural societies and its people in Bangladesh, migration from villages to cities or abroad for work has become a normal experiences for rural population, but migration or the experience of migration depends on the place, time, and context. And not to mention, the experience of migration is not homogeneous for all rural societies of Bangladesh. And the meaning of migration, as the meaning of migration is not same for everyone, the experience of migration is also different for different people. So the primary objective of the article was the ethnographic analysis of how the people of a village here in the context of Gohira, irrespective of class, gender, and time, are adapting to different experiences related to migration. Even though the occupation and economic activities of the rural population was dependent on agriculture primarily in 1960s and 1970s, but we have seen that the dependency or reliance on modern technology, as Ranjan sir has mentioned before, the reliance on modern technology is increasing. So the dependency on agriculture reduced the importance of human labor in agriculture, and the reliance is increasing on modern technology. And with the increase in industrialization in the cities, the generation of job opportunities has also increased. So the migration from Bangladesh to overseas for work has also increased simultaneously. The people of the village started migrating to cities or overseas through their affordability or network, while some of them continue to work from village. Where the occupation of the eastern rural population was predominantly agriculture, but the diversing population of the rural people gradually became perceptible in the process of migration. So the ethnographic of analysis of how the people of a village, irrespective of class, gender, and time, are adapting to different experiences related to migration is the main objective of this article. So the field selection of field, as we all know that Professor Hara has conducted a research titled Paribar and Kinship in a village, in a Muslim rural village in East Pakistan. In a motive of revisiting ethnography in 2018, Tokyo University of Foreign Studies in Japan initiated the revisiting of the village, and the article is written in the light of the information acquired from the field of the ongoing research. So I would skip the theoretical discussion part and directly jump to the findings. Okay. So there has been researchers were keenly interested in family and kinship in rural society in Bangladesh. And it has been a very long time that it is one of the core interests. Migration is one of the core interests of research. Although the breakdown of joint family was discussed by most of the researchers, but they paid a very less attention to how migration rebuilt family ties. In the context of Gohira village, the present study has attempted to explore the matter. Many of the migrants of Gohira now live in the cities with their wives and children living in the village. এরকম অনেক ফ্যামিলি দেখা গেছে যে যারা লো ইনকাম ফ্যামিলি থেকে বিলং করছে, তাদের পরিবারের ছেলে হয়তো বা এটা ইন্টারনাল মাইগ্রেশনের ক্ষেত্রে যে ছেলে হয়তো বা শহরে গিয়ে মাইগ্রেট করেছে এবং সে নিজের মতো নিজে থাকছে, কিন্তু এখানে পরিবারের তার স্ত্রী বা ক্লোজ রিলেটিভ মা বাবারা গ্রামেই থাকছে এবং তারা কিন্তু তার গ্রামের মানুষের সাথে রেগুলার একটা কমিউনিকেশনে আছে, রেগুলার যোগাযোগ করছে। এবং কিছু ক্ষেত্রে দেখা গেছে যে যারা মাইগ্রেট করেছে শহরে বা ওভারসিজে এবং তারা যে নিউক্লিয়ার ফ্যামিলিতে তারা নিজেরা পরিবার জয়েন্ট ফ্যামিলি থেকে আলাদা হয়ে অন্য জায়গায় গিয়ে মাইগ্রেট করে থাকছে, তারা আবার তাদের জয়েন্ট ফ্যামিলির সাথে কন্ট্যাক্ট রিস্টাবলিশ করছে। এখানে আমরা একটা কেস দেখতে পাচ্ছি রমজান আলীর, যে এই কেসটা নিয়ে আমি ডিসকাস করব। এটা হচ্ছে যে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে রমজান আলী সে মাইগ্রেট করেছিল একটা ইয়াং এজে দুবাইতে, এবং সে শেয়ার করেছিল যে তখন ওই সময়টাতে দেশের বাইরে যাওয়াটা এখনকার সময় থেকে একটু লেস কমপ্লেক্স ছিল এবং বেশ টেম্পটিংও ছিল। সে তার নিজের খরচ চালিয়ে তার পরিবারের সাথে একটা ভালো অর্থ সে শেয়ার করতো, পাঠাতো, এবং সে বেশ 3 বছরের মতো দেখা যেত যে every after 3 years he used to come back to his country and spend some time, a month or 2 with his family and then go back again. After his boys grew up, সে ভাবলো যে তার ছেলেদেরকে সে বিদেশ নিয়ে যাবে, এবং যেহেতু সে নিজে বিদেশ ছিল সেটা তার জন্য বেশ সহজ ছিল, এবং সে তার বড় ছেলেকে তারপর তার ছোট ছেলেকে বিদেশ নিয়ে যায়। এবং যখন সে দেখলো যে his boys are independent enough to work on their own, he decided to return back and spend the rest of his life with his wife. তো দেখা গেল যে সে এখানে এসে সে দোকান কিনলো, দোকান ভাড়া দিল, এবং সেই দোকানের ভাড়া দিয়েই সে বাসা বানিয়ে বেশ তার ওয়াইফের সাথে সময় মানে ওয়াইফের সাথেই থাকছে, এবং কারেন্টলি কনসেন্ট্রেটিং অন রিলিজিয়াস অ্যাক্টিভিটিস। তো শিকদার বাড়িতে এটা একটা কমন অকারেন্স যে যেসব ফ্যামিলির যে কোনো একজন মেম্বার বা মেম্বার্সরা মাইগ্রেট করেছে ওভারসিজ, তাদের মাধ্যমে অ্যাব্রডে যাওয়া অথবা তাদের নেটওয়ার্ক বা লিঙ্কেজ ইউজ করে বাইরে মাইগ্রেট করার একটা টেন্ডেন্সি দেখা গেছে। এরকম আমরা 7টা পরিবার আমরা পেয়েছি যাদের বাবা হয়তো বা দেশের বাইরে গেছে এবং তার সন্তানদেরকে সে দেশের বাইরে নিয়ে গেছে, এবং পরবর্তীতে যখন সন্তান আমরা প্রিভিয়াস কেসে এটা দেখলাম যে পরবর্তীতে সে আবার তার ভিলেজে ফিরে এসেছে। Not only children but also those who went abroad to work before, they helped their brothers or close relatives to go abroad. This aspect of kinship is particularly visible among those who have gone abroad for employment. I would also request Ranjan sir if he has something to add with the findings.
Actually, there are a lot of data and case study we have collected from migration, and we are trying to incorporate this data in a holistic approach. The migration is not only depends to the here and there theory or push and pull theory. Actually, there are a lot of issues like cultural and socio-cultural issues. যেরকম হচ্ছে আমাদের এখানে উইমেনের কথা বললেন, উইমেন এম্পাওয়ারমেন্টের ইস্যুস অনেক কিছু এখানে এসেছে। যে ফাইন্ডিংস গুলো হয়তো বা আমি দীপানিতে বলেছি অনলি 10 মিনিটস টাইম, আমাকে হোস্ট রিকোয়েস্ট করেছে 10 মিনিটস এর মধ্যে শেষ করতে। আমাদের এখানে অনেক কিছু আছে এবং আমাদের যে থিওরিটিক্যাল আসপেক্ট গুলো এখানে মেইনলি ইস্যুজ আছে, আমরা মূলত পোস্ট স্ট্রাকচারাল অ্যাপ্রোচে মাইগ্রেশনকে দেখার চেষ্টা করেছি এখানে। এবং এই জায়গায় যেটা হচ্ছে উইমেনদের যে ইস্যুস গুলো সেখানেও আসছে, যেটা লাস্টে ডক্টর নুরুল আলোচনা করলেন যে উইমেনের যে পার্সপেক্টিভ গুলো সেখানে নানা ধরনের ইস্যুস আছে এবং মাইগ্রেশন কিভাবে স্ট্রাকচারাল চেঞ্জ করছে সেই জায়গাগুলোকে শিকদারবাড়ি এরিয়াতে স্ট্রাকচারাল চেঞ্জ আসপেক্ট সেই জায়গাগুলোকেও এখানে খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট ইস্যু। সেখানে যেরকম একটা কেস বলতে পারি আমি সেখানে, যে হচ্ছে শিকদারবাড়ি এরিয়াতে মূলত যেখানে গহিরা শিকদারবাড়িতে আমরা যেখানে কাজ করেছি 144টা হাউস হোল্ড ছিল, সেখানে মেইনলি বাড়িগুলো ছিল খুব ট্র্যাডিশনালি, এবং এখানে হচ্ছে অনেকগুলা ঘর থাকতো একটা বাড়িতে। বাসার প্রথমেই থাকতো হচ্ছে একটা বৈঠক ঘর এবং মাঝে থাকতো উঠান এবং তারপর হচ্ছে শোবার ঘর বা কিচেন রুম। এই বৈঠক ঘরে আসলে বাসার নারীরা আসতো না কখনো, এবং একটা পর্দা প্রথা ছিল সেখানে। এবং যে জায়গাগুলো হচ্ছে সেই পর্দা প্রথা আসলে সেই কারণ ছিল আসতো না, সেখানে শুধু পরিষ্কার করার জন্য আসতো। কিন্তু এখন মাইগ্রেশনের যে রেমিটেন্স, এটা আসলে কালচারাল, শুধু ইকোনমিক বেনিফিট না, এটা কালচারাল অনেক ইনফ্লুয়েন্স করেছে। এখানে জায়গাগুলো এখন বিল্ডিং হচ্ছে মডার্ন টাইপের, এখানে একটা বিল্ডিং এর মধ্যে একটা সবগুলা রুম থাকে, যেরকম একটা হচ্ছে শোবার ঘর বা বৈঠকখানা যাকে বলি, ড্রয়িং রুম যেটাকে বলি বা লিভিং রুম যেটাকে বলি, সেগুলো সেই যে আগের যে পর্দা প্রথার মতো ধারণা সেগুলো থেকে অনেকগুলা শিফট হয়েছে। সেরকম নানা ইস্যুস গুলো এসেছে এবং আগের আলোচনাতেও যেটা এসেছে যে মাইগ্রেশনের ফলে নানা ধরনের বিষয়গুলা, যেটা হচ্ছে মেয়েরা, বিশেষ করে উইমেনরা এডুকেশন নিত আগেও, যেরকম মক্তব থেকে স্টার্ট হতো সবারই, এখনো মক্তব থেকে স্টার্ট হয়, সবাই মক্তবে যায়, যেটাকে আমরা বলি ইসলামিক প্রি স্কুল। ওই এলাকার মানুষের ওরা বলে না, কিন্তু আমরা এটাকে ডিফাইন করেছি একবারে প্রি স্কুলিং এর মতো। যেরকম মডার্ন সোসাইটিতে প্রি স্কুলিং থাকে, সেখানে আসলে রিলিজিয়াসলি তারা প্রি স্কুলিং প্র্যাকটিস করে সেখানে, এবং সেই জায়গাগুলো এখনো আছে। কিন্তু হায়ার এডুকেশনের ক্ষেত্রে অনেকটাই চেঞ্জ হয়েছে। এখন স্কুলে যায় মেয়েরা, হাই স্কুলে যায় এবং ইউনিভার্সিটিতেও যায়। ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটির স্টুডেন্টও আমরা পেয়েছি, চিটাগাং ইউনিভার্সিটিতে অনেকেই পড়েছে এবং প্রাইভেট ইউনিভার্সিটিতেও পড়ছে। কিন্তু আরেকটা বিষয় যেটা আগেও আলোচিত হয়েছে, যে জব করার ক্ষেত্রে মেয়েদের এখনো গ্রামে থেকে জব করার ক্ষেত্রে এখনো রেস্ট্রিক্টেড এসেছে, রেস্ট্রিকশন এখানে অনেকটা এসেছে এবং এখনো তারা পারমিট করে না। এই কারণে হচ্ছে বিয়ের পরে হয়তো হাজবেন্ডের সাথে গিয়ে অন্য জায়গায় বা চিটাগাং শহরে গিয়েও অনেকে কাজ করছে। ইভেন বাইরের মানুষের সাথে আমরা যখন কাজ মানে গবেষণা করি, তখন হচ্ছে নারীরা আমাদের সাথে ডাইরেক্ট কথা বলে না। আমরা চিটাগাং শহরে যে উইমেনের সাথে কথা বলেছি, গ্রামে এসে বলছে এখানে বলা যাবে না, আপনারা শহরে আসেন বাসায় তখন কথা বলবো, তারা রিফিউজ করেছে আমাদের। নানা ধরনের ইস্যু আছে এখানে। মাইগ্রেশনকে শুধুমাত্র যেভাবে রেমিটেন্স বা ডেভেলপমেন্টের ক্ষেত্রে, ইকোনমিক এম্পাওয়ারমেন্টের ক্ষেত্রে বলা হচ্ছে, এখানে আসলে সোশ্যাল কালচারাল ইম্প্যাক্ট ইকোনমির সাথে কিভাবে রিলেটেড, সেই জায়গাগুলো আমরা এখানে আসলে ফোকাস করার চেষ্টা করেছি বিভিন্ন ইনডেপথে। এখানে খুবই আমাদের এই পেপারে স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্যাল ইনফরমেশন নেই বললেই চলে, আমরা ইনডেপথ ইন্টারভিউ এবং এখানে মূলত যেখানে আমরা কেস স্টাডির মধ্যে দিয়ে এই জায়গাগুলোকে নিয়ে আসার চেষ্টা করেছি। এবং মেইন আমরা যদি কনক্লুড করতে চাই সেই জায়গাগুলোকে, যে মাইগ্রেশনের শুধুমাত্র হিয়ার ডিয়ার মানে হচ্ছে আমরা যেভাবে শ্রীনিবাসের কাজে ছিল ক্লাসিক্যাল অ্যানথ্রোপোলজিক্যাল, সে পরিবারের বন্ডিং নষ্ট হয়ে যাচ্ছে মাইগ্রেশন। আমরা এখানে দেখেছি আসলে বন্ডিং নষ্ট হচ্ছে না, এখানে নতুন করে একটা রিশেপিং হচ্ছে বন্ডিংটাকে। যেরকম হচ্ছে শহরের বা বিদেশে থাকা মানুষ তাকে পরিবারকে আসলে টাকা পাঠাচ্ছে, তাকে রিস্ট্রাকচার হচ্ছে, আমরা রিবিল্ড করা বলছি, রিশেপিং বলছি, রিলেশনশিপ, হাউসহোল্ড রিলেশনশিপ গুলাকে আমরা এখানে নানাভাবে দেখানোর চেষ্টা করছি। মূলত এইভাবে আবারও হোস্ট আমাকে বলেছেন টাইম শেষ করার জন্য, আরেকটা সেশন আমাদের আছে আপনাদের সাথে, আমরা পরে শেয়ার করতে পারবো, যেখানে যদি আপনাদের কোনো অবজারভেশন থাকে বা এই থাকে এন্ডেজ করার জন্য যদি থাকে আমাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন। আমি আছে সেশন চেয়ার, আসলে আমাকে এখনই এখানে শেষ করতে হচ্ছে। থ্যাংক ইউ।
লঞ্চ একটা ওই চারটে কোয়েশ্চন আসছে।
আচ্ছা, have you observed any rural and rural migration as well? Rural to rural, হ্যাঁ এখানেও আছে, অনেক রুরাল টু রুরাল মাইগ্রেশন আছে সেখানে। কারণ হচ্ছে এই গহিরা গ্রামকে যদি আমরা বলি গ্রাম, আসলে এটা গ্রাম আসলে, ঠিক আছে, কিন্তু এখানে হচ্ছে বিদেশে অনেকেই থাকে, তাদের টাকা হয়েছে, এবং অন্য রুরাল এরিয়া থেকেও আমাদের এখানে এই গহিরা গ্রামে এসেছে তারা এগ্রিকালচারাল ওয়ার্কার থেকে হিসাবে, কারণ হচ্ছে তারা গ্রামের মানুষ থেকে গ্রামে আসছে, তারা হায়ার করে নিয়ে আসছে। এখানে রুরাল টু রুরাল মাইগ্রেশন এখানে আছে। সেখানে এখানেও যেটা হচ্ছে, এখানে যেহেতু একটু অবস্থা সম্পন্ন একটা সময়, এখানে সবাই নিজেরাই নিজেদের জমিতে চাষ করতো, কিন্তু এখন এগ্রিকালচারাল ওয়ার্ক যেটা বাংলাদেশে এখন স্ট্যাটাসের সিম্বল হিসাবে শো করে না, এটাকে মনে করে লোয়ার ক্লাস পিপুলের একটা জায়গা। সেই কারণে যাদের একটু টাকা পয়সা হয়ে যায়, তারা স্ট্যাটাস রক্ষা করার জন্য এগ্রিকালচারাল ওয়ার্ক করে না, তখন লেবার হায়ার করে তারা। এক্ষেত্রে তারা অন্য গ্রাম থেকেও এবং চিটাগাংয়ের আরো অনেক গ্রাম থেকেও এই গ্রামে এসছে, কারণ এই গ্রামের বেশিরভাগ মানুষ আসলে মিডল ইস্টে হচ্ছে, তারা হচ্ছে মাইগ্রেন্ট। এখানে মাইগ্রেশন ইস্যু ছাড়া আসলে গ্রামের চেঞ্জিং আসপেক্টকে চিন্তা করা যায় না এখন। সেই জায়গাগুলোকে একটা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ জায়গা। এখানে শুধু রুরাল টু আরবান মাইগ্রেশন না, আমরা সেই ডিকোটমির মধ্যে থাকিনি যে হচ্ছে রুরাল থেকে আরবানে মাইগ্রেশন হচ্ছে, বা আরবানে শুধু আরবানে হচ্ছে, বিদেশে হচ্ছে না। আবার অনেকে হচ্ছে যে বিদেশে গিয়ে ফেরতও আসছে, এখানে চেইন মাইগ্রেশন আছে। ছেলেকে এস্টাবলিশ করে দিয়ে কাতারে বা কুয়েতে বাবা ফেরত আসছে, এবং সবাই আমরা যাদের সাথে কথা বলেছি তারা আসলে পার্মানেন্টলি কেউ মাইগ্রেশন করে নাই বাইরে গিয়ে, তারা হচ্ছে গ্রামের টানে আবার চলে আসে, হয়তোবা তার ইকোনমিক সিকিউরিটির জন্য বিদেশে তার ছেলেকে পাঠিয়েছে। এইভাবে বংশ পরম্পরার মাইগ্রেশন এখানে এসেছে, নানা ধরনের ইস্যু এখানে আছে। সেই জায়গাগুলোতে আমরা স্লাইডটা আপনাদেরকে শেয়ার করে দিতে পারি, এবং ইয়েতে আমাদের ফুল পেপারও আছে। সেই জায়গাগুলোতে আপনাদের যদি কারো কোশ্চেন কমেন্টস থাকে বা এখনো করতে পারেন, আলোচনা করতে পারি। এটা অনেক বড়, এটা আমাদের আসলে 10 মিনিটসে পসিবল না শেষ করাটা, সরি এই কারণে। যদি কারো কোশ্চেন থাকে আপনারা আলোচনা করতে পারেন। থ্যাংক ইউ। কারো কোনো কোশ্চেন নেই বা কমেন্টস নেই, কোনো কিছু অ্যাড করার না থাকলে আমরা তাহলে হচ্ছে আমি আমার সেশন চেয়ার হিসেবে আমি আইসুগিয়েকে হ্যান্ড ওভার করি নেক্সট সেশন চালানোর জন্য। আইসুগিয়ে তো আছেন এখানে নাকি?
হ্যাঁ আছে।
ওকে, you can continue. Thank you everyone for listening the presentation in this session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.